now, some people try and get out of this. But I was talking to a woman the other week. She's like, "Hey, I sent all kinds. She was telling. I was like, "What do you do to follow up now?" She's like, "Well, I send postcard and cards. I send greeting cards for like every single holiday of the year." And I'm thinking, "Wow, that's awesome." That I'm like, "Man, you must be killing referrals." I'm thinking, and like, how often do you talk to them? Because I'm assuming like, oh, she's sending all these cards. She's got to be definitely, talking to them. And she's like, well, so the cards are her way of getting out of talking to people.
So we are going deep today into the world of follow-up. You've heard the quote a million times, the fortune's in the follow-up, but it's easier said than done. Right, Wesley?
Yeah, it is easier said than done. And one of the biggest things that I've seen, or actually when I'm talking to agents, I've always been wondering like why so many agents, sorry, let me move that closer, why so many agents have so much trouble like reaching out to their past clients or sphere. And it's, pretty much the biggest excuse I get is like, oh, I just don't have time, and, time, and this and that. And, I ended up actually having, like, I personally have this thing I'm trying to do, which is like creating more video weekly. And I would set aside time, let's say on Friday, and then I would notice like when that time came, like I would like find other stuff to do, or like my email or check something, and be like, oh wait, like I gotta go do this. It's
right.
much more important. And so I wouldn't do, what I was supposed to do, which is the videos.
Well,
and then I'd run out of time.
Before you get too deep, we've got a bunch of people listening already that I guarantee this is resonating with some of you. So in case you don't know, you haven't heard Wesley chat before, Wesley is the CEO, founder of LinkU, and he's going to give us a little masterclass right now on following up the right way. We've done it, kind of covered a few different topics, and we were talking about what to cover today. My name is Jesse Zagorski. I run a team in San Diego. I'm a moderator in LabCoatAgents, but I'm just here to kind of ask Wesley questions and get us going, because every time I'm with him, I learn so much about how to follow up the right way, and more importantly, what not to do. So you're right. There's reasons why we as agents don't do these things we know we should do. What are you seeing? So that time comes on Friday where you should be doing it, and then you do anything else except
I do anything else. And after this one happened for a few weeks, I thought, hey, I'm avoiding this, like, clearly, right? So why? And there's a lot of reasons. There's like prep, and there's fear, and there's, all these different things. And so I thought, it's not really that I don't have time to do it, it's just I don't want to do it. Or there's something, and even when I do it, like, I actually enjoy it, but it's like getting over that initial hump. And so I was on a trip in Austin. I don't know what that's related, but for whatever reason, I was just thinking about this. And then I thought, oh, that's right, I was trying to make videos, and I was like, why is this so hard? So anyway, what I started thinking about, I was like, hey, you know what? Now this is making sense about following up with your past clients, your database. This is one piece. But then once I really started thinking about that, I was like, okay, so even if you put on the calendar, like, okay, Thursday at 3:00, I'm going to follow up. I'm going to spend 1 hour. I'm going to go through my phone, or I'm going to do this. I'm going to follow up. When Thursday, 3:00 comes around, it's like you find something else to do. And you're like, I don't know, this thing came up, or I have to deal with this for my transaction, or whatever. You always come up with something.
And worse than that is, if you have things, because I do this, I'll put it recurring on my calendar. Yes. And once a couple of weeks go by that I have a time slot that's supposed to be for a task, and I don't do it, once I don't do it a couple of times, then I know it's just I don't hold myself on the calendar. Next time it shows up, I know it's, and I'm just like, I'm not going to do that. And I move on. Do you find that too?
Yeah, the Friday thing is recurring on my calendar as well, right? Yep. So I was thinking, okay, so let me go deeper in this and really think this through. I'm like, all right, so it's not necessarily that they don't have the time. That's the excuse that we give ourselves of why we're not doing it. Because really, when you really dig into an agent's schedule about why they don't have time for stuff, like you find that they're really spending a lot of time on things that aren't going to be very helpful to them, right? So it's like, okay, so if I know that following up and building all those relationships, because we all know relationships are a huge part of real estate, right? And I'll ask for participation in the chat soon. So get your keyboard and your fingers ready. But I'm assuming most of us understand that relationships is a huge part of the real estate business. And the stronger your relationships, the more referrals you're going to get. Because a lot of the agents in here, they do business off referrals, right? Mostly. And what can you be doing to drive more of those? Well, that's having stronger relationships with more people. So in any case, you know how important it is. It's just you're not doing it. So I'm thinking, okay, well, why? What is the fear? Like, okay, the time comes up. You really do have the time. You could make the time if you wanted to, if you needed to. So really, it's just that you don't want to do it. And so why is that? And so from there, I started thinking about like all the agents I've talked to about this over time. And I'm thinking, okay, so there's people have said people get anxiety just thinking about making the calls. And in the chat, maybe if you can contribute, what are some of the reasons that maybe have stopped you from making the calls, right? So even if you thought, oh, I want to do this, or I'm going to do it, or maybe you did it, you just don't do it consistently. Is it really time, or is there something underlying that's really causing you to not make those calls? So if you don't mind sharing in the chat.
Yeah, and while people are typing in there, I'll tell you a personal story for me. If you're talking about following up with past clients in Sphere, because I know we have follow up with leads that are in progress. We have follow up past clients in Sphere. With my past clients in Sphere, I mean, I've definitely had some, and I love the phone. I've had some anxiety about picking up the phone and calling someone I haven't talked to in a long time. I'm worried. What are they gonna think? Are they gonna be wondering why I haven't called them in so long? Why am I calling them now? I think that's a pretty natural anxiety or fear that a lot of agents have.
Right. Exactly. And I think also we think about like, well, if they call, they're going to think I'm just calling because I want something. Right. And someone mentioned right there, they don't want to put pressure on the client. Pressure. Right. And so, or I'm bothering them, or they're too busy, or all these things. Well, what's funny is it also goes the other way. So the clients, sometimes, your clients will not contact you for even referrals, believe it or not, or they won't contact you for advice on if they're thinking about selling their home because of this or that. And the reason is because, well, you haven't contacted them. And so that gives the indication and implies that you're really busy. And so now they don't call you all the time. In fact, I've had some people say that they have clients tell them, oh, excuse me, Jesse, excuse me. I was just wondering, like, is it okay if I have a friend who's looking to sell his house? Is it okay if I send them over to you or give them your number? Is that okay? And it's like, yeah, like that's literally how I like make money.
Right. Totally. Yep.
And I feel like that kind of proves, right? That proves the fact that we're also showing by not contacting, by not doing that, we're showing them the same thing right now, because now they have to have the fear. We're just putting the fear on them. So now some people try and get out of this by, I was talking to a woman the other week. She's like, hey, I sent all kinds of, she was telling, I was like, what do you do to follow up now? She's like, well, I send cards, I send greeting cards for like every single holiday of the year. And I'm thinking, wow, that's awesome. That I like, man, you must be killing referrals, I'm thinking. And like, how often do you talk to them? Because I'm assuming like, oh, she's sending all these cards, she's got to be definitely, talking to them. And she's like, well, so the cards are her way of getting out of talking to people. You see what I'm saying? And so, someone on Facebook said, oh, they're too busy. So they use client giants and gifts, which is cool, and birthday boxes, stuff like that.
Which is similar to these cards. So was the person who was sending out cards, were they still getting referrals?
They were still getting some, but she also mentioned she had multiple clients in that time use other agents to sell their home. Yeah. And I told her, I said, well, the reason that is because they don't hear from you, like personally. And a lot of people try to just do the email, like, oh, the email, that should suffice. I'll send them a newsletter. I'll do this or I'll do that. Or they put them on, and most of the time, everyone relies on automated stuff. So when the client knows it's automated, even though it could be something kind of cool, like it doesn't have the same impact as you actually make an effort. Just think about your significant other, especially if you have a wife or someone, right? Think about an anniversary or any kind of thing, and you send an automated gift, and if they could tell it's automated, then you're going to be in trouble, right? So you just those are good things. So I'm not saying they're bad or not good. What I'm saying is really should be combined. And this all comes back to you've got to be reaching out. So what I'm going to be talking about actually is how do you get over that hump so that you can reduce the fear. And actually, I'm going to give you some things that you can do. So when you're going on that call, you're doing that reach out or whatever, I'll even give you like a little script you can use that you can do that and not feel like they're going to feel you're asking for something or you just called to get something. Because really that's the mistake a lot of agents make when it comes to following up is you put yourself in a position where you are only following up or calling because you need something. You need a review or you need a referral or you're always you needing something. And for you, you're like, oh, I just, I want this or need that or whatever. So that's when you call. But what about just because, right? So, some agents do it really well. They already have the relationship. So if you already have the relationship, it's really easy to go and ask for a favor. But if you don't really have it because you let it go cold, then that's the mistake. And then that just feeds into the whole thing of why you don't want to call and everything. And so you really just keep perpetuating putting the cycle, right? So that's why I want to help you to pretty much avoid. And I don't know about you, but for me, I'm an introvert. So I think that partially could be, I think a lot of agents potentially could be introverts as well. And so if that's the case, not only are you that, you have the introvert part, but that's contributing. So now you have that on top of the other things. And maybe you're worried they're going to say something about the home they bought. Like, the home we bought has a leaky faucet. Thank you. Like, you're like worried about the weirdest things that they might complain about or something.
Totally. A side note on introverts, if you're an introvert, you and me have never talked about this book, but I'm assuming you've read it. I do want to throw this out for any of the introverts there. Have you read the book Quiet, The Power of No, you've never read that book? Oh, okay. It's a book called Quiet, The Power of Introverts in a World That Can't Stop Talking. It is not just for salespeople, but it's a fantastic book for introverts to know themselves and to see how they can. Just a side note there, that was a really, if you are introverted and you're trying to tie this into follow-up, I would check that book out. Really good.
Awesome.
I'll send you a copy.
All right, yeah, for sure.
Or if you're an Audible guy, let me know later. Anyway, all right, side note. So
Audible for sure for me.
Okay. Yeah, I got plenty of Audible credits. I'll send you an Audible copy.
Nice. So when I find you, like, if we're introverted, we're like even more hesitant. Like we'd rather just like, I hope the email works, or I hope this works, or whatever. But yet when we're talking to people, when we open up a little bit, then we're fine, right? And everything's good, and people tend to enjoy our company and whatnot. So anyway, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of go over some of these tips for you. Whether you're reviving or kind of like, how do I go back to my past clients or sphere if it's been 2 years or 3 years or 4 years or whatever. I'm going to give you some ways that you can do that. And then also basically the steps that you can take to basically rewarm that relationship so that you can get it back to where it was. Setting it up so that you're a connector, you're bringing value, and I'll get into that a little bit. and then they want to send people to you and they want to hear from you. And now they feel like you're in their phone book and they feel like they can reach out to you too. Because you kind of created now this two-way conversation where they feel, hey, my neighbor's trying to sell through, they can come to you for anything real estate related, as opposed to feeling as if they're bothering you. So there's multiple objectives here that I'm going to go over, things that are, there's just a lot. So I'm going to get into it now just to make sure we have time to cover it all. The cool thing is a lot of this is a PDF that I've created. So at some point I will figure out how to get that to you from my computer to yours. I'll have to get a link or something. But anyway, right now I'm just going to share my screen so we can kind of look at it. And then I'll go over some of the guidelines and I'll switch back and forth between camera and me. Okay.
Let's do it. I'm excited.
All right. So here we go. Let's take a look here. Someone was asking what's the name of the book again while
I'll take care of that then while you're
all right, cool.
I got it.
Okay. So I'll go ahead and start with this PDF here. I'm not going to get into the A list, B list right now and stuff. What I want to do, just because I want to make sure we have time. But here are like the overall guidelines that you want to kind of adhere to when you're doing this. All right. So first, if possible, when you are reaching out, if you have any kind of specifics, like something that you just wanted to make sure it feels as personal as possible, if you have it. Sometimes you won't be able to do this until later because a lot of you may not have the notes or don't really have a CRM where you're keeping that information or stuff like that. So you may not be able to really do number one initially, but you'll be able to do it later on. Number two, when you are actually having the conversation with them and talking and all that, what you want to do is you're going to spend most of that time, especially if this has been a while since you talked to them, to rekindle that relationship. So I'm going to get into, I'll give you some ways like that you can open these, but I want to just go over the guidelines, right? So first things first is once I'm talking to them, I'm rekindling this relationship. I'm rewarming it up. I'm not asking for anything. So I'm just spending time to connect. I typically would recommend keeping these calls within maybe, 15 minutes or less because you do have work to do. You do have multiple people to reach out to. So if you kind of let it get away from you and hour conversations, and it's going to be hard for you to keep this and maintain it. So you want to keep that in mind. So you can do, 4 or 5 conversations in an hour or an hour and a half. You can probably do a couple more. And that's a reasonable amount of time daily to be talking to people, right? The other thing too is very important is after the call ends, don't try and slip in something right now. Okay, like, wow, that went well. Let me just slip in. Oh, by the way, if you know anyone looking to buy or sell a home, I blah blah blah. I thrive on referrals, and the whole. I see your guys' signatures, so don't throw that line in there in the last second, right after you just spent that time rekindling relationship. Because I feel like you'll kind of not for everyone, but I feel like you leave too much potential to undo what you just did. Now, unless they brought it up or they mentioned it, that's a whole different story. But as long as they know your real estate agent, which I'll get into, that's all you need to tell them. Like, you don't need to ask for the referral. And I know there's a lot of stuff that says, I've seen scripts, I've seen a lot of the other programs that are very like, how you're supposed to ask for the referral. I think that's I just feel like most of you don't feel comfortable and won't feel comfortable executing those scripts, just like I wouldn't. And so you're looking for a more natural way for this to happen naturally. And that's what I'm going to kind of go over. I don't know if you've seen some of those scripts.
I have. I mean, I've absolutely seen them. And I think the way I sum it up, and the way I've been trained that why it feels uncomfortable is in a relationship, every time you do something nice or you bring value, it's like you're making a deposit in that relationship equity account. And if you're asking for something before there's really anything there, you can't withdraw when there's nothing there, right? So if you're just rekindling a relationship and then you start to ask for something, you've got to build the relationship back first.
Exactly. And depending on the scripts too, some of them are very like aggressive, and this is part of the fear. So when the agent's saying, well, if I'm supposed to say this and they just cannot, and constantly agents already feel like they're putting too much pressure. They already feel like, I don't want to be a salesperson. A lot of agents aren't salespeople. They don't they don't want to have that stigma or any of that stuff, right? Then it's very hard to do those scripts properly. And so that's just one thing to keep them off the phone, right? So they're not going to do it. So the way I look at it is like, okay, so since we're not, you're not going to do that, then let's just get you to do something that is more natural for you, more comfortable for you, still leads to results, which is what I'm covering now. And because of that, you'll actually put yourself in a better chance to do it instead of like putting yourself in a position where you're just not going to do it because you're not comfortable with the wording or the scripts, right? So I'll go over that. Then you want to find a way to provide value without expectation return. I'll get into value because a lot of people get like confused with that or like overwhelmed. They're like, oh my God, how do I provide value? How do I, change their life in a call? Like that's not what it's about, right? So I'll give you some ideas there. But a little hint is not providing value like you always have some like random real estate facts to share with them, when you're on the call. But actually bringing value to the relationship itself, not value in the way where people tell you value, like bringing a CMA or something first or some article or some nugget knowledge. While that could be it, that's not really what I mean. And then when done, right, or if you don't do this properly, should I say, they will be asking you the real estate questions. And this can potentially create a natural path to the appointment without you ever asking. You're just positioning, you're not asking, you're having a casual conversation. And I'm going to tell you how you do that. So let's start with like, where would you start? How do you even get these conversations? First, is this helpful? Like, or should I just completely talk about something else? I'm just kidding.
Useful. Totally useful.
I already have this already planned, so I'm not going to change my topic, everybody.
I'm just going to tell you it's useful though. And we got Jake in the chat box said we're loving it. So
all right, that's good enough, Jake. Thank you. I
keep
appreciate
rolling.
It. I'm going to do this for at least Jake because at least I know he's loving. Okay.
Exactly.
All right. So we've got the open. There's a bunch of options here that you can use to basically open the conversation with your past clients. And I don't care if it's been, again, 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 4 year, 5 years, you can use this. It works great. The easiest one that I like here is like the third one. You can say I was organizing my desk or I was going through my phone. I don't know if going through my phone is a new one. I don't know if I added it here yet. No, but I was organizing my desk or I was organized or going through my phone, came across your name, came across your file, all that stuff, right? So these are just giving you ideas of reasons why you're calling that kind of like give you like, oh my gosh, I haven't talked to you for so long, right? So I was going through my phone, came across your name. It's been a while. We should connect. We should catch up soon. When do you have time, right? That's it. It's a very short text or an email. You could do an email as well or a phone call as well. If you leave a voicemail or something, that's fine. You'd be surprised by the responses you get from this. In fact, that's how I end up meeting my wife. So you can not only use this for your past clients, but you can also, like, if you're single still, and you have some prospects in your phone or wherever, this is another script you can use for that. So I'll give you an idea. I was bored one Friday evening many years ago, and I was like, I just know what to do. Fastest way to a relationship or thing to do is to contact the people on your phone, right? So I start going through my phone and I'm just like looking at names like, oh, there was this girl I met a few months before. Haven't really talked to her and thought, okay, here's what I'll do. So I called her and I said, hey, I was just going through my phone, saw your name, thought, should I keep your number? Should I remove it? We met, blah, blah, blah. It's like, oh yeah, I remember. No, you could keep it for sure. I'm like, oh wow, okay, so good news. And then I'm like, oh, so what are you doing? We get a conversation. What are you doing later today or tonight or whatever? Oh, nothing. All right, I'll come pick you up. Okay, great. So that turned into a little date, which turned into a following date, which eventually turned into a wedding date, which eventually turned into, you could get the idea. So
Viola asked in the chat, by the way, how often should we do this? I don't know if you'll get to that later. And I'm assuming she's talking about following up, not meeting potential spouses online. That
right,
you only do one time. That was just a one time.
Okay. Yeah, you meet potential spouses, usually once, could be 2 or 3 times in your lifetime. I'm just messing. But yeah, so this is designed to get you guys back into the ring, right? So if you've already been following up with certain clients, you can use some of that, if it's been a little bit, but usually you're going to use something like, you already talked to them recently. So it's not an unnatural thing, or like, it's not weird to hear from you or anything like that. These are things to help that situation where it's been a while, it's been a long time, whether they're fear, whether they're, past clients that you can use to reopen that conversation, right? So once you do that, so as long as how often, well, how big is your database, right? Do it every day to work through everything. And then as far as how often should you contact one person, I would say minimum of every other month at least, right? Every other month. That gives you time. And again, like right now, you feel like, oh, that seems too much. I used to tell people like, oh, well, if you can do it monthly. But here's the thing: it doesn't mean you have to call them monthly. It doesn't mean you have to, text them every month or do all 3 every month. It just means there should be some personal touch point, even if you're sharing something. And Tristan shares a lot of cool stuff with that. Some of it could be even on social media, and I'll get into how you can open that channel as well, right? So really once a month, if you're including that, meaning you comment on something through social media, or you make a personal reach out about something or mention or share, or who knows what, right? Where they feel like you're doing something personally for them. That, if you can do once a month, would be great. But minimum every other month. So hopefully that answers that. Then once you've done this, people are going to reply with, oh yeah, great to hear from you. Let's talk next week. Oh yeah, let's I don't know, my computer keeps doing this weird thing where my mouse doesn't slide across. Okay. The other thing too is when you're doing this, people are going to reply generally positively, unless if numbers changed or, something else, or they just don't reply. Sometimes they're just busy. So if they don't reply, don't assume like, oh my God, they hate me, I'm never going to do this again. Just assume, oh, they probably got a message, maybe they're busy or whatever. And when you do it again, then you have a better chance of them catching up. And if you really want to do it cool, you can just or really do like go up and beyond, be an overachiever. If they haven't responded for a couple of days, you can always text them back, be like, oh, did you get my message? Just checking. Is this still your number? Like that sort of thing. And then a lot of people reply, oh, like, yeah, oh yeah, sorry, I got busy, this and that. The other thing I was going to talk about is when you start having these conversations, even the text message replies, you'll notice that when people reply, sometimes they'll tell you like everything going on. So a lot of replies you'll get too are going to be very detailed. Like, oh, not this week's not good. Maybe next week. I've been in the hospital for this, whatever thing in my stomach, and I should be having surgery. And then when I get out, we can talk. It's like, wow, okay, that's a lot of details. Great. So
clearly not an introvert.
Yeah, something, right? So do expect you'll get a lot of that too. You'll get a lot of those things. But you also get plenty of people open to those conversations so that you can basically, you have a reason to reach out, right?
And just to clarify for people, for expectations, the initial openers that you're using, are you using those on the phone, like as a call, and then if they don't answer, you leave a voicemail, you're getting a text message as a response, or are you using those as a text message outbound?
Yeah, these openers are generally going to be something where there's not someone on the other line per se. It's going to be generally a text message. That's probably the most popular way. And I found and sometimes could be the most easy way for the introverts because it allows you to kind of do the text and not talk, or what if they answer, or, deal with that kind of thing. But also you can use these for emails. And please, I mean, if you're writing these personally, I guess that's fine, but just try not to be too long, okay, with it. And you can absolutely use these as openers if they answered the phone. So that's fine too. They answer, hello? Hey, Jesse, it's Wesley. I just want to see how you're doing, since you bought the house or whatever. Or, hey, I was going through my phone. I thought I would just give you a call, see how things are going, make sure the number still worked, fit a little joke in there or something. And how are things going? That's it, And then I'll give you, okay, well, now I got them on the phone, or now they want to talk. Now what do I do? What's the next step? What's the conversation look like, right? So these are just some of the examples there. Okay. Oh yeah, there's the voicemail example. And then we get into the conversation. All right, so the conversation is going to allow you to actually create that connection. It's going to allow you to bring the value. This is going to be your primary objective. All right. So as you see here, your objective is not to make a sale, an appointment, or any of that on the first call. Get a referral, all that stuff. So if it's been a while, they're reaching out, you're talking to them. Remember, this is not your objective. Don't force the issue. Okay. This is not your objective here, which is why I don't recommend waiting until I need a sale. Oh, I know, I'll talk to my database, because now you come off with commission breath. You don't want to do that. So while this could happen and will happen, that is a side effect. Warning, you will get and likely find referrals and listings by doing this. So keep that in mind. It will happen, but it's not your primary objective. Because if you have an objective to get the sale, get an appointment, get a referral, whatever that is, it's going to be obvious to the person on the other end, and you're not going to make the progress that you really want. And it's less likely that they're going to take your calls in the future. So that's the key here. You don't want to be less likely to take your calls in the future, because every time you call, you're just asking for something, right? Because this is relationship business. Real estate, more than a lot of other industries, is so based on relationship. Because think about this too. Wouldn't you want it to be, if it's like, if I'm buying something super expensive, like probably one of the largest investments I might ever make ever, I kind of want to be really close with that person if possible, and really trust them, right? That's why a lot of people prefer to go with people that are referred to them, friends, family, neighbors, sphere, because of the trust that's already kind of established. Because it's like, you don't know like what to expect from someone else. So that's why you kind of reach out to those people. And anyway, so that kind of sums it up, right? That's why all that stuff kind of makes sense. Now, objectives. I just have a couple of objectives that I'll go over. The first one is you want to uncover their potential needs. And how do you do that? Well, and you're not just necessarily uncovering, their real estate needs. Okay, so you're looking for any kind of needs, because remember, you want to bring value to the relationship, not just to bring value about real estate. Okay, that's not necessarily all it is. And I'll tell you about some examples. So first, you're going to want to just peel the onion, ask why. And so when you're talking to them, really what you can do is just let me actually go back, because I forgot one thing. When you're talking to them, it's probably going to start off really like, how have things been for you? What have you been up to? That kind of stuff. Okay. And for you, this is a part where you work in, Sandra, she wasn't here. Whatever. This is a part where you work in a little story about what you do and yourself. right? So they might, oh, what have you been doing? Well, obviously, you're still in real estate, right? So you may say, well, I'm still working in I'm still a real estate agent. This is what's going on, or blah, 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 but don't turn that into a sales pitch. Maybe if you have like a miniature story you can tell, like, oh yeah, if you're even in conversation, whatever you guys might be talking about, rather than feeling like, well, how do I tell them this, or how do I tell them that? If there's something you feel like you have to deliver to them about what you do or your specialties or any of those things, don't deliver that and like, hey, well, just so you know, like, I'm an agent, I do that, I blah, 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 all these things. Like, now you turn into a commercial halfway in the conversation. Instead, what you want to do is kind of work that in with into like a story. So they say, oh, how is blah, blah, blah. You can just tell them a story about something that incorporates what you want to know or the information you want them to know, right? So let's say, for example, and this is huge right now, is you may want them to know that the market's pretty crazy and like they could cash out, right? Right? If they thought about it, if they wanted to downsize, or who knows what the situation might be. So you wouldn't tell them like, because otherwise they feel like, oh, they're just telling them to tell me, blah, blah, blah. Not maybe, right? No, you just tell them in a story. So you just say, oh yeah, I've been pretty busy. I mean, it's been pretty crazy. Like homes are going like 100,000, 50,000 we're asking. It's like a line. I feel like I'm at Disneyland with a line of people when an open house, right, for office. It's just crazy. And that's it. You don't really, it's just, I've never worked in a market like this. So yeah, it's interesting, but we'll see where it goes. And that's it. Like, you don't, from there, what if you tell the story good, that will pique their interest and they'll be like, wow, that sounds crazy. Well, me and my wife were talking. Yeah, you got somewhere. Now you see, you pique their interest with the story, not by you necessarily just going out. Now, could you go out and just ask? Sure, you could. But again, I want to build a long-term relationship here. And so I rather just do it as naturally feeling as possible, rather than, again, making them feel like this is the only reason I called. That's the difference. They're like, well, if I could just ask them, yeah, but now there's this little thing potentially, because if they say no or something, see, now you just messed up all the future calls. That's why. So I like to squeeze those stories in to find those people, the low-hanging fruit, if they are people who are thinking that. But that story doesn't push someone away because I never asked them for anything. I was just simply sharing a story, right? And so that's pretty much it. The other thing too is sometimes people will be they're introverts too. Okay. And so you have an introvert talking to introvert. And if it's like me, you got to open me up, right? So if you're calling me and I'm like, oh, how are things going? I'll be like, oh, it's good. Right? Like super short answers. And it doesn't mean I don't want to talk to you. It just means let's just, we're all busy, right? So what you do is you just say, oh, and then you just ask an opening question or a question about something that you remember about them or whatever. Like people get me with, oh, how's your business going? Oh, it's going this and that. Sometimes it's a little big question, or they'll go into something. Oh, I saw the Packer game the other day. What did they do? I know. And see, now they get me, oh, well, yeah, Aaron Rodgers and this and that. Like, oh, I heard about Aaron Rodgers. Oh yeah, now they got me open, right? They opened the door. And that goes back to number one. If you know anything specific about them, it's going to help you have great and easy relationships down the line, which is why you'll see here, be sure to take these notes in your CRM so you can bring them up later, not just in that conversation, but future conversations, right? So that's the key here. Another thing you can do, and this is just a little tidbit that I learned in that, I forgot, never split the difference, is he'll be like, they'll say, oh, I just been busy with work. And then you would just repeat exactly what they said and be like, oh, busy with work? Like, and then they'll say, yeah, like, and then they go and explain a whole thing. This is how my wife gets into like hour-long conversations with strangers who like end up revealing every living detail and secret of their family and everything going on. And she does it by accident. She doesn't realize she's doing it. So that does that. And then let's see, number 2, you want to be their trusted advisor. That's huge, right? So I kind of talked about a little bit, but essentially when you're opening that door, oh shit. Okay, oops. When you're opening that door for them, let me share my screen. I thought I had that on there. There we go. So back to the screen. So yeah, so when you open that door for them, they feel like they can reach out to you for advice on stuff. Mortgages, loans, renovations, enhancements. Make sure you're that connector. That's what I like to do, is think about how you could be the connector, because once you are following up, right, and you're reaching out to people and you're having these conversations, don't just have conversations to be like your past clients. Have conversations with your vendors, right? Have conversations with other agents potentially, but just think about your sphere. It should really be everybody. The reason I say to do that is because on those conversations, they may mention, oh my God, yeah, this yesterday, my whole fence fell down. What? Yeah, it was windy. My fence fell down. It's crazy. Now I got to find someone, blah, blah, blah. Like, hey, I got a couple fence guys. They do great work. In fact, they just put a fence for one of my listings, and let me refer them to you. They would much rather like have that, like if you already know someone, than them having to go on a limb, go find someone, maybe trust them. They don't know if they've done work or not. Or so, and this is for multiple things. It could be for an attorney for something. It could be for this and that. As you're talking to people and building these relationships, they mean, oh, my car just messed up. Hey, I have another client. He's a mechanic, owns a mechanic shop, auto shop over there and blah. You should go talk to him. Tell him I sent you there. Now you're this connector. You're bringing value to the relationship. And it's because you're working through your sphere. Now you're actually having conversations. And when you start building this web, if for any of you work in like a little group, or you have belong to any kind of society or community or church or this, and they know you're the agent, and that thing just drives referrals constantly because you have like this web of, this network, essentially, the network effect. That's how this all starts coming together. Finally, objective 3. At the end of this conversation, what I'm going to do is I want to make sure I have all the ways to connect with them. So if I have a CRM, or if I'm talking to them, I only have their cell phone, or I only have their home phone, and I don't have their email, guess what? I'm getting their email, right? But my most favorite one is to do a friend request on Facebook right then and there. So every single person I'm talking to, basically, I'm like, oh, are you on Facebook, or are you on whatever? Yeah, I am. Like, hey, let's do a let me send you a friend request. Yeah, absolutely. Yes, I know there'll be people. What about the people who aren't on Facebook? Okay, well, they're not on Facebook then. Okay, that's okay. Oh, I don't really use Facebook, blah, blah. All right, well, maybe I can friend you on TikTok. Yeah, I'm just kidding. So so you've got that. Just what information do you not have? If you don't, obviously you might have their address. Some people, you may not have their address. Get their address. So whatever information you don't have, get. Okay. These are prompts just like to maybe get them talking about real estate. But, again, these kind of more come in the future calls, I would say. Okay. Or if they talk about something, just to give you an ideas on connectors you can use. And then the last piece is call to action. So when the opportunity presents itself, you really should have some kind of call to action, something at the end. Call to action. I thought you said, Wes, not to ask them for anything. No, not that kind of call to action, this kind. So I mentioned friend request on Facebook. That is a call to action, right? That way you can use Tristan's method. What was it? Like, comment, mention strategy, LCM he calls it, right? You can use that strategy if you're friends on Facebook, which allows you to connect with them more often without picking up the phone. The strategies for that, to do it very easily and with less time. Maybe you can have like a little, or having this little happy hour game night, or there's actually like virtual escape rooms. There's virtual things you can do with a group you can invite them to. Maybe I'll get into that kind of stuff later, more details. Where you can do either in person, or hey, let's come meet for coffee or tea or whatever. That works really well. I know there's a lot of agents who kill it with these like coffee campaigns and meetings. If it makes sense, if you guys talked about, yeah, we might be thinking about doing something or selling or whatever, but they're not ready yet, say, hey, I have this tool I pay for. I'll add you for free. I'll add you just so it sends you the value, or it sends this, or it's this home bot, or whatever it is. Yeah, I pay for it, and you're more than welcome to have it. I'll add you in. You want me to do that? Sure, that'd be awesome. Great, right? Or if there was someone you can connect them with, okay, the call to action is you're going to get them an introduction to that mortgage person, that banker, that vendor, that insurance person, contractor, whoever that person may be. And then maybe even schedule a follow-up call or meeting if that makes sense. If, you guys are supposed to talk about something, okay, related, then you guys obviously would do that. And then wrap it up, right? Update your CRM, put in the notes, do all the stuff you're supposed to do there. And then that's it, right? So that's pretty much, I would say, all of the elements.
That was an awesome framework. I know we have just a couple minutes because there's another webinar right after this one, but
yeah.
So we won't have time to get too deep into questions. Did you want to mention the partnership you're doing with Tristan?
Mention yeah, absolutely. So, okay. So basically, this is just a small piece, obviously, to everything that you could be doing as a real estate agent. And I've actually Tristan, myself, and another partner, Stephen Groders, have put together a program where we actually teach the entire process, but from a business standpoint. So, for example, we have this weekly accelerator framework, and we kind of work through. These are like all the pieces to having a successful real estate business. And the goal is to help agents to sell. Our motto is kind of like a home a week, right? How you can sell a home a week, or more or less. It's kind of up to you, right? But having the option, and talking about mindset and how that plays a role, how to kind of track which numbers you should be tracking, and how to plan your quarters and years so you're actually making progress. So many agents, so many people just get stuck. They kind of get stuck in that rut. They get stuck in that plateau. So how you break through that it plays a lot in the plan and measuring. Brand trust, prospecting, and marketing. We talk about lead gen. A lot of people have trouble. I actually was talking about this the other day. It's like sometimes if you're going through your list and you're going through your past clients, it's like, man, I talk to you all the time, but I need new blood. I need new people to talk to, right? Well, that means you need to get better at prospecting and marketing. You got to get new leads into your sphere, into your database, right? And there's like a million ways to do it. But really, it's just like, if you just did one way, you could sell a home a week. Like we show you, like, just do this one way. And if you want to do other stuff later, go for it. But you really just got to master one way. That's kind of the cool thing, actually, about this whole thing, is we've simplified the real estate business. Like, how do I get to a home a week? And what's necessary to get there? And what we found was, while there's 101 things or 1,001 things you could be doing to get to a home a week, and a lot of agents are trying to do 20 of them, or think they have to do 20 of them in order to get a home a week. What we actually found is you only really need to do like 3 or 4 things. So even on this wheel, we found that if people even just did like 3 things really good, they can get to a home a week, let alone if they did 8 halfway decent, right? Follow up, that's what I covered today. We cover that kind of stuff, those types of systems, go deeper, obviously, into that, and just everything else. Excite and impress, how to change the experience for them. How do you compete with Zillow? How do you compete with Open Door? What are things you can do there? How do you ensure you're building your reviews online? How do you make sure you referrals on purpose, not just by accident or by chance or hoping it happens or any of these things, right? So if anyone's interested in working with Tristan, myself, and Steven, it's going to be us 3 running the whole course. Tristan's never put anything like this together before, but he has so much knowledge. He has so many resources. There's so much out there. Basically, what I did is I was on him saying, Tristan, look, you got so much stuff. Let's take some of it, organize it, put it together, and basically help people to implement this stuff. Not just teach it to them, but let's actually help them to implement this stuff into their real estate business. So this is kind of beginning stages a little bit. So right now we're just starting with a small group of 25 people. We've got, I think, like, I want to say like 15, 16. We definitely have plenty, but agents are lagging on reserving their spots. So we definitely still have spots left. They'll close up anytime though, probably by the end of the week, if not sooner. So if you guys are interested, if anyone here wants to work with Tristan, myself, and Steven Groders, you may have seen him here before, to implement this stuff, the wheel, follow up, learn all the different things there, and implement finally, then now's the chance. Now's a chance to do that. So just go to joinweeklyaccelerator.com. Yes, there is a cost. There is a cost. The program is right now, it's $29.97. We do offer payment plans as well. We plan to sell it for more in the future. So I'll say if you do get into this group, it's going to be a lot of value. You're going to get so much more. And again, you have to think about, you got to think about your return on investment, obviously, right? If this is not a program where we're trying to get you to, make your money back, that would be nice, but that's kind of a disappointment. We want you to, I was telling someone the other day, I was like, oh, the goal here is like 10x and 20x and 50x your investment. It's only $3,000. So I guess it depends on your market. Because we're talking about a home a week here is where you want to go. Or some people want to do 20 a week or one a month or whatever your goal is. It all depends on your market, your commission, how you want to live your life, all that. But that's it. So yeah, so if you're interested, there's the link. How much time would we individually be spending on this each day a week? Great question, Cheryl. So basically, we're looking at about a couple hours a week. It's a 3-month program. And then there'll be ongoing things you could do or participate in if what you wanted to. But this particular program is 3 months. And you're looking at a couple hours a week between, let's say you attend the Q&A or you attend we have our implementation sessions and stuff. Maybe watching the course pieces that accompany the entire program as well. So it could be less or more, kind of just depends. But yeah, it's not like this, it's not a ton of time because we want to make it less enough time where people can work in their schedule and actually do it. Like that's our number one priority is implementation. So it's actually called the Weekly Accelerator Implementation Program. It's not really just a course, it's an implementation program.
I love that, Wesley. I do. As always, this is such good content, guys. I know we got another Zoom that's coming up on the same line here, but guys, if you have questions for Wesley, you can reach out directly. Go to that link, check it out, and you have to apply for the program, right? At least take a look.
Yeah, exactly. And let me go ahead, just in case people have questions about it and they're not sure if they should apply or not. Let me quickly in the chat put a phone number before we disconnect here.
Yep.
That if you have questions, you're not sure, whatever, just go ahead and text this number. Okay, we're gonna text up. Do it this way so I can kind of keep track of who's texting for what. And let's see, make sure it goes to everybody. All panelists attendees. Okay. All right. So yeah, if you guys have questions or anything like that, text apply to 833-632-1547. Okay. 833-632-1547. Just text there, and then I can go ahead and answer questions via text message or any of that stuff. Sound good?
I love it. I love it. Love it. Have a wonderful day, Wesley. Everybody else, thank you for being here, guys. This is such good stuff. And I will see you guys. We'll see you guys next time.
Sounds good, guys. Thank you. Have a good one.